I mean, it's fascinating. With all this aggravation you're enduring, travel restrictions, a potential jail time, $1 million in fine. Is it worth it to keep doing this, standing up for the rights with all this incredible infringements on your liberty, potentially?
Did you really just ask me that? The piddly little things that they've done to me, you don't think I can take that? They better hum a lot harder than that if they want to stop me, and they're not going to stop me. They're not going to stop me, they're not going to stop us, they're not going to do anything.
Well, folks, here we are at the Yahoo Nation protest, and one of the mainstays, Chris Skye and the lovely Miss Jenny, they weren't supposed to be here today. They were supposed to be out east, but Chris, I don't know if your new nickname should be Bonnie and Clyde. It seems that you're, I don't know, on a no-fly list. You flew out to Moncton, New Brunswick last night. You were going to drive then to Sydney, Nova Scotia, but what happened?
Well, obviously they knew I was coming out there because in order to have a protest, you have to advertise it, so it's all over social media. The poor gentlemen at the RCMP were forced to come and basically kidnap me off the airplane.
Kidnap you?
Well, I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't have any charges against me. They came and they arrested me. It even says on video, I'm like, what are the charges? They say creating a disturbance. The only thing I did was take my mask off on the airplane while I have a valid medical note that I've used multiple times on other airlines successfully without any hassle. So really, it was just a ploy to arrest me so they could stop me from speaking both in New Brunswick and Nova Scotia. I would still be in jail right now because of the holiday, and I would be stuck there till Tuesday. That was their plan. Hold me on a bogus charge, keep me till Tuesday, and then Tuesday basically kick me out of jail, drop the charges, and be like, All right. What seems to be the problem?
You're under arrest for causing a disturbance, so...
What disturbance did I cause?
Exit the plane.
What disturbance did I cause? Excuse me.
We're gonna exit.
Excuse me, I'll exit the plane, but what disturbance did I cause?
Mask?
What disturbance did I cause?
You have a mask?
What disturbance did I cause?
Anything you say me use as evidence.
That's fine, so I'm asking what I'm under arrest for.
There's no trial right now, sir. We're getting off the plane.
That's what
and we know from earlier this week when we spoke to you, you were charged under violating the Quarantine Act. Yeah. And that faces up to $1 million in fine, both of you, and a year in prison. Before you explain, Jenny, I just can't imagine you going away to the big house for a whole year.
Yeah, do I look scared? I don't think so.
So Chris, I mean, is this, I know you said to me before, you thought this was, I guess, the government and by extension law enforcement making an example out of you. Was this the same situation on your flight to Moncton?
The flight was 100% the government trying to prevent me from speaking. Like I said, I would still be there Tuesday if it wasn't for a phone call a friend of mine made that got me out in about 45 minutes. They were forced to escort me back to the airport, RCMP was, and then Air Canada, who has me officially banned, was forced to allow me on a flight and fly home, just so I could make it in time to speak to everybody today.
Wait a minute, you're on a no-fly list like a terrorist or something?
No. Air Canada tried to take me, tried to ban me because they didn't want to honor my medical note. Because they made up their own policy that says you have to give your medical note to them and then their doctor gets to decide. A doctor that's never met you, doesn't know your medical history, has no ability to diagnose your condition, gets to decide if your doctor's medical note is sufficient.
So Air Canada's corporate policy is trumping the rule of the land?
That's what they thought, and I proved them wrong by flying on Air Canada. I didn't wear the mask. I showed them the medical note. They gave me a notice saying they're going to call the police if I don't wear the mask. I said, well, I'm not going to wear the mask, and I tore up their little notice, and I said, the police are going to tell you I didn't break any laws. Your policies do not trump Transport Canada guidelines, nor do they trump the law of the land. I told them I know my rights, I'm going to protect my rights, and you're not going to take my rights. Sure enough, when we landed, the cops were waiting. They walked right over, and the first thing they said to Air Canada was, what do you want us to do? He didn't break any laws.
Oh, really? Okay, then. So now I'm just confused. Did the RCMP actually charge you with causing a disturbance? Was that the name of the charge? Or
officially, they had to put a charge in, and causing a disturbance can be anything. Like if you fart loud, they can tell you it's causing a disturbance. What they use it for is a way to hold you 24 hours. In this case, it would have been longer because of the holiday, and I would have been stuck there till Tuesday. Then they basically kick you out of jail and drop the charges on you. Or they make you pay a small amount of money they call a recognizance, and then the Crown will drop the charges before it ever goes to court.
You know, Chris, I got to ask you.
It's just basically a way that they can legally kidnap somebody.
Wow. I mean, it's fascinating. With all this aggravation you're enduring, travel restrictions, a potential jail time, $1 million in fine. Is it worth it to keep doing this, standing up for the rights with all this incredible infringements on your liberty, potentially?
Did you really just ask me that? The piddly little things that they've done to me, you don't think I can take that? They better hum a lot harder than that if they want to stop me, and they're not going to stop me. They're not going to stop me, they're not going to stop us, they're not going to do anything. As for that stupid quarantine, $1 million fine, and you're in jail, the only way you can get those arbitrary large penalties is if you violate an isolation order under the Quarantine Act, not a quarantine order. If you listen carefully to the way they say, under the Quarantine Act, the maximum penalty is. So, how do you get that maximum penalty? Not by breaking quarantine, by breaking isolation. What's the difference? If you come home from a vacation, they check your temperature and you're fine. You have no symptoms, they put you on quarantine. If you come home from travel and you're coughing, sneezing, your temperature is high, they write down that you're a probability for COVID. At that point, you're not on quarantine, you're on isolation. Now it's assumed you have the virus, and you have to assume you have the virus. Now if you go out to a public place like this, it's assumed you have the virus and you know it, so you're knowingly endangering the public. And that's how you could find yourself with $1 million fine or a 1 year in jail. They want the public to believe that you can go away to Florida, come back, and then if you leave your house to go for groceries, they can grab you and put you in jail for 6 months or a year or charge you $1 million. No, it doesn't work like that. They could charge you with something like an $800 fine that won't even stand up in court. So it doesn't matter. And I'm going to prove all of that. But what they're going to try to do is they're going to try to First, they're going to try to make it stick right away, and that's obviously not going to happen. Then their backup plan is going to be to extend it as long as possible. So it's continually looming over me to keep the fear on everybody else that this could happen to you. No, it won't.
That is fascinating. And of course, by the time you landed back in Ontario, Chris, new restrictions in Toronto, Ottawa, Peel region, restaurants, fitness facilities, bingo parlors, movie theaters shut down. A lot of these places are just hanging on by their fingernails. What do you make of these new draconian measures right here in Toronto?
It's almost like I predicted this exact thing on video multiple times at starting on September 26th. It's also not a coincidence that literally the minute they let me out of the jail in New Brunswick, after they canceled the Facebook accounts of the people that were organizing the protest, they upgraded to orange level lockdown while I was being escorted from the police station to the airport. I literally heard it on the police scanners that they were going into an upgraded lockdown. So I don't know if you want to call that a coincidence. But if you notice, every prediction I've made has come true. Just call me the Nostradamus of 2020. And I made another big prediction today, but I'm not going to talk about that one.
Well, it's fascinating.
I will say, I have never been wrong. And there's a good reason for that.
So, Chris, what is the end game? I guess what's going to happen? It's been more than a half year, I guess, now of these Yahoo Nation protests. Do you see further clampdowns, or do you see Premier Doug Ford acting more like a conservative premier, which he ostensibly says he is, and letting the economy open up again so we can get back to the old normal?
They will do whatever we allow them to do. Everything that's happening now is not because they're doing it to us, it's because we are letting them do it to us. If everybody just said today, I don't feel like wearing a mask anymore, and took off their mask, what could they do? Absolutely nothing. If everybody said today, I'm not closing my restaurant, my bar, or my gym, what could they do? Absolutely nothing. They do not have the power. We have the power. Now it's about convincing the people that they have the power, because the TV, the government is trying to tell them otherwise. And that's why we're doing this, to let people know that they do have the power. We're going to celebrate Thanksgiving tomorrow. We're going to go with our friends and family. On November 12th, I'm going to go to court. I'm going to represent myself in Zoom court. And December 5th, we're going to have the Santa Claus parade, and that's going to be the largest symbol of defiance, because that's the biggest symbol of hope and inspiration in all of Canada. Everybody comes out for that, and that's why they closed it down. It's absolutely ridiculous that they will film it on a closed movie set with thousands of people there, and that's okay for those thousands of people to be there, but it's not okay for people to watch it live. No, everybody else has to stay home. It makes absolutely no sense. And they're going to try to label it as an anti-mask parade, etc., etc. It's not anti-mask. If you want to come there and wear an N95, you want to come there in a hazmat suit. I don't care. We're not telling you that you can't wear a mask. And if we want to, we can social distance while we're watching, and we can social distance the people in the march. So there's absolutely no excuse not to have the Santa Claus parade, except that they're trying to crush the people's spirit and crush the people's hope, because their plan is to lock us down even further, tighter, Australia style. When they call something a model, that means that they plan on implementing it elsewhere, which they already did in Israel, which they already did in Ireland, which is why I went there to speak in the first place, and they're going to do it here if we let them. But if we put the kind of pressure on them that we're doing, if our Santa Claus parade draws 250,000 people to the city, that'll be the biggest symbol of defiance yet. And we're going to move into 2021 with such a momentum. The government's best ploy, and I'm going to say this right here, another one of my predictions, they can only save themselves one way at this point. The tide is turning. More people are waking up, less people are scared. The only way they can save face, avoid the gallows, and avoid our wrath and pitchforks is by locking us down, bringing out the vaccine, letting whoever wants to take it, don't force everybody to take it, and then pretending like the vaccine actually worked so we can get back to normal. Then they look like everything they've been saying has been truthful. They look like they actually had the best interest of the people at heart, and they look like heroes that saved everybody. There you go, government. I just gave you a way out. And that's about your own.
Well, there you go, folks. Just when you thought that 2020 couldn't get any more weird, I guess it just did. It's funny, last year, convicted terrorist Omar Khadr, he flew out to the East Coast. He was given a limo ride to speak at a university. Meanwhile, a man fighting for freedom and liberty, he's put back on a plane and told to pay for his own airfare back to Toronto. Can you make sense of this? I sure can't. For Rebel News, I'm David the Menzoid Menzies. Hey folks, if you can, please go to journalistdefensefund.com. If you're able to, make a donation so that we can continue to bring you the other side of the story.